do the complete opposite and turn it into um, this extremely, arguably overtuned fight that doesn't give a huge reward, but still gives a reward that's far and away above what you get normally.
Right.
And then there were also levels in between, which I think, they've obviously strayed from since then. You could make it a little harder or a little harder than that, or the extreme kick your ass mode.
Yeah. Now, this is one thing. The one thing specifically about Sartharian that they sort of I haven't seen them repeat is the fact that Wrath is when they introduced 10 and 25 man rating, where you can do 10s and 25. With Sartharian, however, the 25 man version was much easier than the 10 man when it came to 3 Drake Sartharian. I mean, what did you feel about that? Where they sort of the real prestigious kill of that tier was a 10 man, and all the hardcore guilds were 25 man guilds. I mean, how did you feel about that?
I I guess to me at the time it didn't really feel any different. It was just a kind of sign of the times. It was here they're trying to split and say, yeah, you can continue to raid 25 mans, but we're also going to make it easier for the casual groups to raid and make 10 mans. And I think what made the 10-man 3 Drake such a prestigious kill at the time is because it was, again, their first attempt to split the player base. There's easy content, there's medium content, there's hard content. And they have experience tuning 25 mans to this point. You know, they know what they can do and what they can expect, but this is their first time with 10 mans as a serious raiding encounter. Like, we're not talking about Karazhan here. You know, we're talking about actual content that mimics the 25 man content.
Right.
And I think the reason it was harder was just because they didn't know. I guess they didn't know what they were doing. You know, it was an experiment and they had to learn from it. As far as, you know, which one being more prestigious, it felt like it was a jerk back and forth in all of Wrath. In some instances, the 10 man was harder and considered the kill, and in most cases, the 25 man was harder and considered the kill. Like, I know when you guys killed the Lich King on 10 man heroic first in the world, nobody gave a shit. I mean, no offense, but nobody talked about it. And then when the 25 man kill happened, you know, you can't load the forum for 2-3 months without hearing how they did it and what what exploits they may have used. It was just, I don't know. Wrath was a strange, I guess, experimental time for everybody.
Right.
It was college for World of Warcraft.
Yeah, definitely was interesting, and going from, obviously, Wrath went from, enabling hard modes by doing something with the encounter with 3 Drake Sartharion, which sort of led to Ulduar. And after that, they decided they don't want to mess around with in-game stuff and just give you a button that says I want to do hard mode or regular mode. A lot of people love Ulduar, and that was sort of around the time where you were there for, I think, the first little bit, and then that's when you went to China.
I did test roam Ulduar. I was in, when Ulduar was on the test roams, I was in the guild. I was raiding. At the time, my fiance had already moved to China. She had been there for a while. And at the time, I had no intention of going. And it just, over the course of, I think, one weekend, it just turned out that I had an opportunity to go and visit. And I decided that I was going to go for 2 weeks, let everybody know that I was going to be gone for 2 weeks. And within a week of being in China, I had a job and I had signed a contract to stay there for a year. So from China, I was telling everybody, look, I'm not coming back. And, I guess Old War came out, I think, 5 or 6 weeks after I had gone to China. So I know that I was there on the test roam. I did a lot of the test fights. Like, I tested XT on Heroic and some other things. But I honestly, to this day, have never actually done Old War from start to finish. I've done it in sections, just never from start to finish.
Well, let's touch on that. Obviously, it's a common occurrence where real life circumstances prevent you from playing the game or raiding with people. What was that like for you? Having to. I mean, with obviously there was a lot you had to do with. Because again, this isn't like I'm just gonna turn off my PlayStation and go do something else because I don't have time to play right now. You literally committed to a schedule with a group of people that you consider your friends and coworkers, however you want to look at it. And you're in the situation where at the time your girlfriend, now your fiance, was making this life changing decision and moved somewhere, and sort of trying to decide all these things. What was that like for you? Because this is something a lot of people have to face. The reality of reality, getting in the way of, well, maybe not getting in the way, but sort of the limiting your time to commit to something like what we're doing here in Blood Legion. Tell us about that.
It's hard. There's really no way around that, and there's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, some people will sit and tell you that the game doesn't mean anything. It's just a game. It's pointless. But the fact of the matter is, when you play, especially in a group like this, you get to know people. They're not just, after a while, they're not just characters anymore. There's actually people behind the monitor.
Right.
And like in the case of Arat here, like I met Arat through World of Warcraft. The first time I ever talked to him was when he interviewed me to join Blood Legion. And I mean, that's a friendship that I hope is going to last forever. Eric is a great friend. He comes and visits me at my place, and I go out to California and stay at his place, And that's the relationship that we built in the game. I mean, I met my fiance through WoW, and I'm really, some people would laugh at that, and I'm honestly not ashamed of it. I've met great people through Warcraft, and I think that's what makes it hard to walk away from. It's not the game itself. I can turn off the game and be okay. I might miss it for a day or two and decide that I want to play it again. But it's not the game. It's the people that you're playing with. And it's hard to walk away from them. And it's even harder when you realize that the only connection you have to them is this game. Like there's a lot of people that I wish I had kept in touch with that other than playing the game, I just had no way to stay in touch with them. Because I never considered myself not playing. So I never reached out to them as, hey, what's your phone number? Or can I get an email address? Or let's talk on Instant Messenger sometime, because we were always logged in, we're always talking, we're always having fun. And then suddenly that's gone. And it was really hard to walk away from. The time that I spent in China was great, and I met some great people and good friends there, but I missed a lot of what was happening here. I didn't get to talk to people like Zonker or Taft anymore. I never got to say goodbye to Z Extreme, for as sappy as that might sound. When I left, he was still there, and when I came back, he was gone. And things like that just, I don't know, it makes it hard to turn away from. I would never laugh at anybody or say anything about them when they say, it's hard to walk away from the game, because I understand. And it's something that I've tried to teach people that I've played with who looked at it differently, is that it's not just a game. I mean, it is just a game, but the people you're playing with are real people. And they come to depend on you the way you come to depend on them. And when you're not there, it makes a difference. It makes a mark in their lives. Whether or not it should is a completely different story. But it does. And when you take that into consideration, when you really think about it, it makes it hard to walk away from. Like I said, I don't play with you guys anymore, and I miss it a lot. I miss a lot of the people. And I mean, I'll find any excuse to play anything with you,
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the thing, guys. I mean, like Voss is saying, it's not just, it's a lot of, you make a lot of friends. You're used to speaking with people on a daily basis, doing things with them, and until it's sort of taken away from you, it's a lot of people take it for granted, and obviously Voss didn't. I mean, he appreciated it, and he still appreciates it, the time then, and if there's an opportunity to sort of, where we can do something together, whether it's this or me being terrible at League or whatever.
Or Street Fighter. Who said that?
Oh, I think you're talking about you being bad at Street Fighter. No big deal. But anyway. But yeah, so So obviously you're still involved with the game with your website. Why don't you tell us a little about that sort of how that's going? Up here I can show you guys one of the comics. Actually, this is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is one of your most famous comics, this specific one, because you guys won the Warcraft comic contest with this one.
The comic itself started as just a way for my fiance and I to just have something to do together. We were playing the game, but at the same time, it was just something we could work on together and say that it was ours. And it was just kind of something that we talked about here and there and never really considered doing. And then one day it was just kind of, okay, let's do it. And then, a couple days later, we have a webcomic. I mean, it really is that easy to start. And I fancy myself the writer, but honestly, a lot of the work most of the work is hers. The artwork, the scripts, the titles. And this one in particular did win Comic of the Month, which we never got our prize for, if anybody is listening. But
I'm sure Blizzard's listening to my stream.
Yeah, I bet they are. Chris Metzen's logged in right now.
Hey, you guys.
But it actually came as a joke that somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody had said it to us while we were raiding with the group that I started playing with afterward, just kind of casually. And it was at the time they announced the new race and class combinations, and Tauren Paladins were one of them. And it's just kind of one of those inevitable jokes. It was just kind of based on Red Bull, and Red Bull gives you wings, and
right.
You change a letter, and now you've got Red Bull gives you wings, and then you have a spell for Paladins that actually gives you wings. And it was just kind of one of those things that fit together too perfectly, that I think we were even surprised nobody had done before us.
Right.
And so she puts this together. It's hilarious. I mean, it's on the website if you want to get a closer look at it, and it's just funny. I mean, even when I look at it now, it's just funny. And after this came out, she and I were at a comic expo together, promoting the comic, and somebody actually brought a can of Red Bull and asked her to autograph it because he had seen the comic and he thought it was funny enough for that.
That's awesome. And I think you had mentioned before that I made an appearance in one of your comics. I think I have it here. Why don't you tell us a little about the inspiration for this one?
This comic came after I actually saw Erat wearing a dress in real life. No.
Oh yes, I love wearing dresses, guys.
So we had gone to BlizzCon, and I forget what year it was, but I remember the entire expansion. Erat is complaining that everybody tanks better than Protection Warriors, and he's getting more and more upset about it as the expansion goes on. And I mean, when I say upset, I mean he's bitching to me that Warriors can't tank well, knowing that I don't give a damn. So that's how I know that it's important to him. So he's talking about this all the time, and we go to BlizzCon, and it's still like this, and I forget the exact circumstances, but he had an opportunity to walk up to Greg Street, Ghostcrawler, and ask him about the state of Protection Warriors and tanking. And he airs his grievances in bullet format, like he's been practicing this in front of the mirror every day. Like, if I ever meet Ghostcrawler, this is what's going to happen. And he goes down these points, and at the end of it, you couldn't script this if you were writing a movie. Ghostcrawler just looks at him and says, "I think Warriors are fine," and that's the end of the conversation. Like, he didn't counternote any of the points. He just looks him right in the eye, says Warriors are fine, and just the only way it could have been better is if he had just followed it up with "learn to play."
You might as well have said that.
And when we got home, it was almost, BlizzCon happened in October. When we got home, it was almost Halloween, and we're talking about a Halloween comic. And it kind of struck me. I was like,